Voice of customer is incredibly important in customer experience today. But one of the challenges that we face is when we ask customers for feedback, they're notoriously bad at telling their story. There's got to be a better way. And I'm joined today by Chip Bell, who's an author of many books and a fantastic speaker. And he's got a new book, I think, that answers that question. How do we get inside our customers' imagination? That's the title of the book, Inside Your Customer's Imagination: 5 Secrets for Creating Breakthrough Products, Services, and Solutions. And so, Chip, I want to start with something you wrote about, I think, at the very front of the book, which is customers don't always know what they want. Why is
That's
that?
true. That's true. They don't always know. They don't. We like to think we do, but they don't know what they want because their needs are changing so quickly. And they know a general idea sometimes, and they know some itch that they need to get scratched, a need they may have. But the path to getting there is always not always certain. Obviously, we say I need some peanut butter. I'm going to the store. Looking for peanut butter. But if I'm looking for something that I've not had before or something, and there are lots of times that great products come on the market nobody asked for. Nobody wanted a bicycle, nobody wanted a fax machine. We can go down the lists, and name many, many products and services that people enjoyed and delighted that they got and enjoy today. But nobody asked for, give me something like FedEx. Nobody came up with that. So that's even more why we need to help the customer figure that out with them. And so the whole crux of the book is about how do we co-create with customers, help us together collaboratively figure out what they might want, need, hope for, and aspire to.
So I want to ask you a little bit about that concept of co-creation that I find fascinating, because what I see companies do is kind of in one camp or the other. One camp is they lock themselves in a conference room and brainstorm ideas. The other camp is they just talk to customers all day, and the worry there is customers really ask for some interesting and sometimes impossible things.
Yep.
But you're saying co-creation. What does that mean? What does that look like?
Well, it looks like a collaboration, and it comes in lots of forms. One of which might be bringing somebody in. We have boards of directors. Why not boards of customers? Where you bring people in and say, Meg Whitman did that when she was at eBay, and they got ready to create their app. This is in the early days of apps. And she goes, well, we know about what apps do, but let's get the customer involved in what it ought to look like, feel like, priced at, et cetera. And so their Voice of the Customer program became a vehicle by which they created that. And it was a huge success, which is none of the byproduct of customer inclusion, customer co-creation is when the customer can put their fingerprints on it, because I helped make it, their commitment to it goes up dramatically. And so that's one of our hopes always is how do I build deeper customer loyalty? And I think the whole collaborative co-creation process, frankly, customer experiences are already co-created. We make up the experience with the provider, but we don't always treat the customer as if they're an equal partner. And so this book is about how do I create that equal partnership. So we're creating with the customer, not just on their behalf or for the customer. And it is a different approach.
Now, I want to get to something just before I forget to lay this
Sure.
out. Can you tell me a little bit more about what do you mean by a breakthrough product, service, or solution? What makes something a breakthrough product,
Well,
service?
it could be a whole new product or a whole new service, or it could be some feature of it. I'll give you a quick example. I was working with a major pizza company, one I won't name, but you'd know the name immediately. They're a national company that is in the pizza business.
Is the word pizza in the name of the company?
I won't go there. anyway, uh, they they hired us to say, help us better understand what we can do to improve. Obviously, So we asked guys. We did lots of focus groups, and we thought pretty much they were going to focus on price, product, and process. Okay, that's traditional. Your pizza doesn't taste that great. It costs too much. Yeah, I have to wait too long to get it. All of those three things. But what we got, because we asked dreamer questions, and that's a key part of this book, is not just what I need and expect, but what would you hope and aspire? Your hopes and aspirations. And when you ask that question, what's something nobody in our industry is doing? And those are kind of questions where you start creating the surfacing of ideas and half-baked solutions. And customers kept saying, "What about the box? Nobody's doing anything with the box." And we're going, "The box? Yeah, the box." We go, "What do you mean? Say more." "Well, it could be a lot of things. You could take that box, I throw it away, but why not turn it into a puzzle? Why not turn it into a seasonal toy like a Halloween mask? And so all I gotta do is peel that little plastic thing off because the pizza would be underneath it, and all of a sudden now I got a coloring book. I got and they named off all kind of stuff. And so the company, sure enough, said, "Well, we could do that." And I happened to work with, later on, not that particular time, I worked with a major paper manufacturer that created boxes for this company that actually put a variety of things on it. Well, there's an example of pizza's not a new product, but doing something unique and unusual with the box is taking it to a different level. So that's example of what I'm talking about. Sometimes, this is a fun part, sometimes you come out with a product, customers go, "Well, that's great, but you hadn't thought about how we like this." I'll give you an example. Frisbee. Frisbee started out as the Frisbee Pie Company. And this guy in the 1800s was making pies and putting them in a box, in a round cylinder pie pan. It had a lid on it. And people would get the lid, turn it upside down and throw it. And they'd holler, "Frisbee," which is the name of the company, Frisbee, like four on a golf course. Well, uh, all of a sudden, people are starting to buy the pie to get the top to be able to use as a toy. And obviously, Whammo saw it, turned it into hard plastic, and the rest is history. But the point is, customers said, what if you did this? What if you took it in this direction? So there are countless examples out there where customers reshape some or create something you never had. Who came up with splash sticks at Starbucks? Not Starbucks, customers.
So I want to unpack this a little bit because there's a couple of
Yeah.
things here that I find are interesting. One is just a comment about even the questions that you ask when you're soliciting feedback might get you different answers. Like I imagine if you're asking people to dream about pizza boxes or whatever the product is, you'll get some really crazy things, but somewhere in there is a
Yeah.
real idea.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. All answers are good, and we always. Yeah, I have a good friend of mine who used to run a big hotel. He's now an association executive, John Longstreet. But he would always say, "Two more ideas." There is and it was always amazing how many of the ideas that came out of the two more became the ones that were implemented. But it's pushing people beyond to think, "We hadn't thought about that." Push it a little bit further. It's not an unusual creativity technique. But again, it's always looking for ways to say, let's learn more. Let's learn more and find an application. So to me, it's an exciting area, and it gets a customer to be emotionally invested in that product or service or solution because I helped make it. I helped create it. This is my pizza box.
Well, and that was the other question I want to ask you. And I think you may have, if I got this right, I think you told this story in the book, and I think it was John Longstreet. And if I'm wrong, it's okay to correct me.
Yeah, sure.
But the other side of it, rather than asking customers directly, sometimes it's finding different perspectives and different angles.
Correct.
So the story that really stood out was it was a hotel general manager who would buy breakfast for local taxi drivers,
Right.
and ask them, "What are you hearing in the taxi?" This is like taxi cab confessions. How was what really do you think about your stay?
Exactly.
What was it really like? Was this the same person?
Yeah, that's John Longstreet.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, he was a GM of the Harvey Hotel, which is not there anymore, but it was for many, many, many years a very popular business hotel. And he realized that the same taxi drivers were frequented his property. This was before we had Uber and Lyft, and to take customers, because he was a business hotel, they'd take them back to DFW. And so he said, "Look, fellas, I'll buy you breakfast once a quarter if you'll let me just pick your brain about what you're hearing about our hotel." Well, it wasn't too long before now the taxi drivers are learning to ask the question, "Well, what'd you think of the hotel? What'd you like most about it?" They came up with all that. But the most important part about that example is that John didn't just gain more information, he got insight into what customers really were concerned about. a scorched smelling towel where it made them worry about a fire started in housekeeping, or a dust bowl under the bed made them worry about bugs in the room, or a light out in the security area made them worry about security in their hallway. So it was the taking it to that next insight level that was the most productive for him and the most beneficial, because now he could make some changes that would address their anxiety they couldn't even talk about. That's what they began to find through the focus groups with the taxi drivers. So it's that kind of thing that says, if we want to go inside the customer's head and inside their imagination, in this case, looking for innovative ideas, we need to get close. I talk about eccentric listening. Eccentric list. That's just a phrase I made up, but the point is, people get immediately. You're talking about out of the ordinary kind of question. You're talking about deeper than normal question. You're talking about trying to find angles to questions that aren't traditional. And so again, it's creating a learning experience out of your curiosity, and it causes customers to now feel you really are interested in us. Man, I'll share with you more now. And as you started, people don't complain. They don't say, give us feedback. First of all, because they don't think we care. If we cared, we'd do something with what they said. So here again, I go, you say that. It's a nice thing. How was your stay? It's on, you check it, you ask it.
Checklist,
Not real. It's not real. But when you really go deep and say, well, tell me more, deeper, that eccentric listening, now you're really creating the awareness in the customer that you do clearly care.
Well, I think there's also a benefit to coming at it even from a different perspective, because I can tell you, if I think we're almost trained as customers that they really don't care. And what I mean is, if I've stayed in a million hotels, I know you have.
Yeah.
How was your stay?
Yeah.
According to the script, my stay was fine. That's what it says.
Yeah.
That's what they say. And so I say it was fine.
Yeah.
I've tried to be better about being honest. And most of the time when I'm honest, I told the housekeeper, the very last hotel I stayed in, I saw somebody in the hallway, housekeeper, how was your stay? And the words I used were, honestly, it could be better. And her response was, you and me both. And then she just kept walking.
That's great. That was very telling. That's very telling. Yeah.
Well,
I've been doing this
about that hotel.
Because you and I, like you say in a lot of hotels, and they ask that question. They say, how was your stay? And I would say, oh, it was fine. But the next question you ask is the one that's going to tell me whether or not you're really interested. And they go, well, what do you mean? I said, what else would you like to know?
Yeah.
And they go, oh. And then they probe a little further. They get it. They get the concept that, we treat questions like, how was your stay? Like, how's your day going, as a greeting. It's not really an interrogatory. It's got a question mark, but it's not really something you're saying. It's like another version of hello. It's the next question, the question after question, that tells me, wait a minute, this is not just a greeting. You really are interested in learning more. So that's why I always say, it's the next question you ask that tells me whether you really care about whether my experience is about. Oh, I got to think about
that. And I want to, I promise you, there's a segue, there's a transition here. I think a lot of times our employees on the front lines are used to maybe feeling like they're trapped between the customer and management.
Right.
That might be why they don't always dig deeper to find the answer, because what am I going to do with that? And I'll give you another example. There's a story that you wrote about in the book that I immediately said, how can this happen? And then I know it happens all the time, where there was a hardware store.
Yeah.
And a customer wanted to buy a single item. It cost $1.99, but there wasn't the code or the cashier couldn't scan it.
Yeah.
And the cashier was frozen. I can't ring you up without the code. And the customer says, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $5. Just let me get out of here.
Right.
I can understand that though.
Yeah. Right.
A lot of employees get stuck in that spot where they're frozen. They can't help the customer, yet what they should do seems so obvious.
It does, but we let the cash register win. And because here's why. Think about from the management standpoint, from the leadership standpoint, whether you're a big box store, as in the example here, and they go, okay, but that cash register, unlike the employee may manage that one experience with that individual, the next customer. But that cash register drives inventory, financial management, and they can name off a gazillion reports driven by that cash register. So unless we get that barcode correctly, we won't have proper supply and inventory that affects logistics and all down the line, all the way back to where things came in, and the whole distribution system starts breaking down if we don't let the cash register win. That's the orientation. And so the poor person is in fact caught in the middle. If that was a little tiny corner hardware store, they go, oh, sure, I can put the barcode in later. Just give me $5 and get out of here and go. But we don't do that. We let the computer and let the cash register run by that computer win. And the tragedy was it all happened in front of a whole line of customers, all of whom saw this inane scenario that everyone, including the employees, saw as totally insane. Everybody got why? Everybody got why, but they were angry. And it's like, as I mentioned in the book, there was a competitor less than a mile away.
Mm.
So same size.
We're not tracking that, are we? Competitor. Well, and as a former
come here, I'll go there next time.
Yep.
So, of course, unfortunately, they may be pretty much the same.
They will be.
Yeah.
As a former cashier, I'll tell you that employee is managed based upon the balance of their register. Sure. There's a report at the end of their shift.
Yeah.
If they're off by $1.99.
That's
the manager will talk to them.
That's
right. They could get in trouble. So the manager is observing all that data that you talked about, but the manager is not observing, did you provide a great experience when confronted with this unusual situation?
Exactly.
Manager's not there for that.
We don't have a metric for that, that at least one that the manager relies on, believes in, and sees with the same level of credibility as what the cash register created. So, and that's a part of it. And that's in many ways, we've got these big giant stores, big box stores, and then you got the little small hardware stores like the Ace franchise and the True Value hardware store down the road. Their stuff is all more expensive. We all know when we walk in an Ace or a True Value, I'm going to pay more than I will at a Home Depot or Lowe's or any number of the others. But we go there because just like we went to Nordstrom, even though we get more, but we know we may get more hometown, more neighborhood-like service as opposed to the computers driving this. So,
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
I know we have time for just one more question. I hope you don't mind. There's one term well, there's a lot of terms. I took got a little Post-it notes. I took a lot of notes. But one thing I want to make sure I ask you about is this concept you wrote about called Daredevil Learning.
Yes.
What's Daredevil Learning?
Well, the concept is discovery. The concept is really about risk-taking. But what if you go in and say, hey, let's take risk together? It's kind of scary for your customer. But if you came in and say, let's learn something out of the ordinary, now all of a sudden the risk-taking concept is softened. It's protected because the objective now is about learning. When you put people through an experiment, for example, and it's all about what we're going to learn from this. I recently did a keynote for the research people in the whole pharmaceutical world, and that are doing hopefully a COVID-19 virus. And what they found was what causes people to stay in those trials, clinical trials. The third most popular answer was what I learned from it. And so I'm willing to take risk with my body, with my heart, with my mind, if there's a learning opportunity. So Daredevil Learning is sort of a concept to say, turn risk-taking into a learning experiment. Learning, what could we learn from it? And so now the sting of I may make a mistake is softened. So that's the concept. It's risk-taking with a learning goal, but extreme learning. Let's try it again, and let's see what we can learn this time. Push it a little bit further. Again, it's all about growth and learning.
Chip, there is a lot of learning in this book. I enjoyed it. I recommend it. How do people find the book? How do people find you?
Oh, good. Well, they can find the book anywhere you order books. If you go anywhere, whatever you're, Amazon, Porchlight Books, Barnes and Noble, Bookstop, whatever you go to buy books, it's there. They've all got it. They can access me. This is going to be a hard one. chipbell.com. It's one I can remember. So yeah, that's my website, and you'll have all kind of cool things. If you go on there and look at the book page under books, there are all kind of freebies and cool things you can get for free when you order the book. So, at any rate,
Chip, it's been a lot of fun. I think you shared a
oh,
lot of great
likewise.
advice. I really appreciate it.